Hey, good evening. It's a sneak show. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. Low interest rates on leases right now. If you want an F-150 for an amazing biweekly price, I'm your guy at Norm at Oak Ridge Ford. We are open for business. March is a very big month, and I'd like to do a deal with you, the OG, the convert, anybody who's a part of this podcast. When you sponsor Oak Ridge Ford, you are sponsoring the Leafs Convo now in season 7. Mr. Augello in Buffalo, New York, Norm James in London, Ontario. The Leafs are in a slump, man. That's 4 losses in their last 5 games, a 3-2 defeat at the hands of the mighty Florida Panthers. Brad Marchand not around, Matt Tkachuk not around, but it's business as usual for the Stanley Cup champs. They fell behind, but kicked it back a little bit to finish off the first, took over the second period, and despite a tied or a Max Domi goal in the third, that was pretty much about it. Mr. Augello, before you say a word, and I know you have a few words to say, I just dug up this tweet from I don't know, about an hour and a half ago on X. Leafs coming up small as usual in a big game, down to a shorthanded Florida team, 3-1 after 2. Matthews continues to be a ghost, and Stolars has allowed 8 goals in 5 periods against his former team. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Norm. Yeah, I mean, if you read the tweets, I think you probably will, that followed that. I mean, this is supposedly a big game. And they were shot out of a cannon in the first 10 minutes and then stopped. I think stopped working for about a period and a half. And when you're down 3-1 after 2 periods against the Stanley Cup champions, 99 times out of 100, you're not going to win. Now, I singled out 2 people in that tweet, but there were more passengers than there were players playing at a high level.
Right.
But in these games, and somebody in the chat just said, KJ, what's wrong with Matthews? He's been hurt all friggin' year. He sat out training camp. He sat out 3 weeks during the regular season. He went to Germany to check on whatever the problem is. Then he sat out another week. He didn't. He went to the 4 nations when maybe he shouldn't have played. And now, as you said, 3 goals in 16 games?
3 goals in 16 games from Austin Matthews after a 6-goal and 5-game run to finish up January. It has not been a fruitful February, and certainly he's following that up with a pretty dismal March when it comes to scoring goals. And we were challenged on TikTok, Gibby72. Hey, Norm, he's cranking an assist. What injury are you talking about? You involved with the franchise in some way to know this info? Just curious. Is it not obvious? Is it not obvious? The Rocket Richard Trophy winner has missed a whole bunch of games, and you think he'd be scoring at a 40, 45 goal clip. Not even close.
He's been injured all year.
Right.
The injury has not, it's not magically healed. He's playing through it.
Right.
Whatever it is, we won't know. We won't know until a week after the season ends and he has surgery. Because I would predict that's what's going to happen. Whatever it is, it could be a hip flexor, it could be a back, it could whatever. He's probably going to have surgery, and he's probably going to be out all summer, and miss part of training camp, something like that. That's what always happens. But whatever it is, he is battling through it. He is playing. That is an excuse. But if he's playing, then you expect him to be as close to 100% as possible. And if he was hurt before the 4 nations, he shouldn't have gone.
Right.
Now, I mentioned a couple other players. I said, somebody was saying out there this was a playoff type game. Well, that's the reason why Mitch Marner didn't show up, and he didn't. So it's this team.
What are they afraid of, Mike?
This team has made coming up small an art form. They really have. And, honestly, it's like somebody, I'll say it. My buddy, Steve Dangle, it was saying, Carlo hasn't fit in and Lawton really hasn't made any kind of big difference. And I have to agree.
We were expecting them to. What
but,
many
but,
points is
but,
Scott
but the
Laughton?
thing is, they've played 3 games, so
Right.
it's going to take time for them to sort of settle in.
We're not expecting points from Scott Laughton. We're not expecting points from Brandon Carlo. It's presence. It's presence and fitting into the puzzle that this team has been trying to piece together for many a season. And here we are. It's demoralizing because, as you mentioned, this is the kind of game you get up for. A little tit for tat. Boys, you want to go? This is the team we have to beat if we're going to get anywhere. And oh, by the way, they're the reigning fucking champions. So let's get it done on home ice. We've been, tugging it a little bit too much lately. And, they just couldn't pull it out. It's not like they were blown out, Mike. If you look at the stat line, 25 shots apiece on the face-off dot, virtually the same. 11 penalty minutes apiece. However, 40 hits from the Panthers. And when they get the man advantage, they do something with it. 2 for 3 on the power play. The Leafs 0 for 3, indicating that these are the kinds of things that you win with when it comes to getting opportunities that you have to bury, or you are going to end up in a really, really shitty spot. The Leafs on the losing end, the champs that are just on fire, winning again.
Teams win when it counts late in the season and in the postseason,
right?
Due to a number of factors. Goaltending is one of them. Special teams is another. Those intangibles. And I know the Leafs power play has been better as of late, but I hate the 5-forward power play. I despise it. It's going to cost them, mark my words, it's going to cost them at the worst possible time of the year. You need a power play quarterback. Now, Morgan Rielly is not, the Morgan Rielly of a couple years ago, and he doesn't have a big shot from the point. But I think he's better on that power play. Now, what they're doing is they want to put their 5 best players out there, and they want to put Nyes on the power play, and they don't want to take off Tavares. So that's why they're going with the 5-forward power play. But Mitch Marner on the back end is scary. It's scary. So I mean, I don't know why they keep doing it. They keep going to it. If they shift all of a sudden away from that to Rielly on the point going into the playoffs, then what was this whole thing? Again, and I said it in that tweet. Anthony Stolarz has played both games against Florida. He has given up 8 goals. Who cares if he's familiar with the team that he played with? Maybe they're familiar with him. Maybe they know how to beat him. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't seem to have much of a problem tonight. And I may be wrong, but I recall, I think it was a game in December of 2023. It was late November, early December of 2023, when the Leafs won a 2-1 game in a shootout. And I think that was the last time they beat Florida in the regular season. They may have won one after that, but I'm pretty sure that was the last one they beat Florida last year. And who was the goalie in that game, and who stole that game, who won in a shootout? Joseph Woll. Now, maybe this time, after losing twice in a row against his former team, Craig Berube will go and start Joseph Woll. But I don't know. He seems intent on going with Stolarz in big games. I don't get it. I don't think he can win them.
Wait a minute. Woll started the last game against Utah. It was Stolarz's opportunity to get in there if we're, doing the alternating game scenario. Don't you think that Craig Berube thought that maybe Stolarz might attempt to come up big against his former club? I mean, we know where you lie in the argument. You would like to see Woll be the guy. I'm with you there. Many fans don't agree with us. Fair enough. We can agree to disagree at this point. But I don't, pinning the blame on Stolars tonight doesn't make a lot of sense. He was up, and just, I mean, spiritually to go in there against your former team and take a crack at them. It didn't work out, but it wasn't like he cost them the game.
Well, he didn't make the saves when they needed him to make them.
Right.
I mean,
we don't know if Wall would have either, Mike.
No, I don't. But I know that he's lost twice to them. He didn't look good. He didn't look good in Florida when he gave up 5. I don't think he looked particularly great. You know, the one penalty that led to the Bennett goal was because Stolars couldn't cover the puck. And then Ekman Larsson takes a stupid penalty, and then they get a Bennett goal on the power play. The second goal was a Nico Mikkola, you know, that offensive juggernaut, Nico Mikkola scoring and then Bennett scores another one. You know, special teams, the Leafs penalty killing, you know, giving up 2 power play goals. You know, this is a power play that's playing Mackie Samoskevich and Seth Jones on the point because Ekblad's not there and Tkachuk is not there. See, this is the thing, you know, a championship team that doesn't have their best forward, arguably, Tkachuk, their best defenseman, Ekblad, or at least their maybe their best defenseman is Gustav Forsling. But and the player that they traded for at the deadline, Marchand, without all 3. And they still win. They walk into Toronto and they beat them. You know, you could say, well, the Leafs have been gone for a long time. They're on a long road trip, and the first game back is always.
I hate that. I hate those excuses. They mean nothing to me.
Yeah, but
honestly. So in hindsight, Craig Berube should have disrupted his goalie rhythm and went with Wall again.
Well, okay. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying, Norm, is the next time Florida comes up, stop with this bullshit about playing. You played Joseph Wall against St. Louis twice because Joseph Wall is from St. Louis. Okay. Who cares?
So when is the head coach going to use his fucking intuition and make the determination based on who he thinks is going to win as opposed to who's up? Right?
Well,
I mean, that's simple. Hey, Wall, you're up. Stolars, you're up. It's an alternating thing, and we're going to run this way out through game 82. Maybe you start using your intuition and just saying, listen, we're going to roll up the sleeves. The gloves are off. We got to get this done. We're starting to trend in the wrong direction. Nobody's fucking scoring. We got to figure this out.
I mean, the Leafs are fortunate because a couple nights ago, Florida was up 2-0 against Boston. And I looked at the scores in the third period and said, okay, now they're going to be 4 points behind with a game in hand. And right. Boston came back in the third period and beat Florida in regulation 3-2. So
a team that's rebuilding can come back and beat them, but a team that's supposed to go head-to-head with them after losing to them in the playoffs almost a year ago can't figure out a way to get it done on home ice.
Well, I mean, that's the reality. And like I said, this team continues to come up small at the big moments. They're big players. Now, I will give Matthews a pass because he's hurt. He was hurt in the playoffs last year. He's hurt now.
Right.
Mitch Marner is not injured, and he didn't show up. And somebody said, well, he hit a post. Last time I looked, there are no points for hitting a post.
Hey, Nylander got an apple tonight. He's got 3 goals in his last 13 games.
Yeah, your 2 best players tonight, your 2 best, were John Tavares and Max Domi. That should tell you enough.
OG's Converse, what do you think? Like the content, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok as well as Instagram. I'm breaking up segments of the show every single day and sending them out there. We could use your love. We could use your support. If you're looking for a vehicle, our sponsor, Oak Ridge Ford, is kind enough to throw a couple of dollars our way. So anybody you know, oakridgeford.com. It doesn't matter where you are in Ontario. Start your search there. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to walk you through the process. You don't have to buy from me. We're all one big family. You know, Mike, just looking at the schedule, guess what? It's Ottawa at Scotiabank Arena on Saturday. Forgot, and then it's out west, Calgary, Avalanche, Rangers. You got the Predators, Flyers, Sharks, Kings, Ducks. At some point, you're hoping these guys get off the schneid and get back to getting prepped for the regular season, or sorry, the playoffs rather. But man, I mean, like you go through the chat tonight and everybody's knocking Riley, everybody's knocking Matthews. It wasn't too long ago. It felt like we were flying high. I wouldn't say this is the low point of the season, but if it continues to trend this way, we're going to get there really soon and at the worst time.
Yeah, there's a guy in the chat that says, give Matthews a pass. He's making 13.25. Yeah, if 13.25 million means you can wave a magic wand and whatever's wrong with him is magically cured.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry. We know he's hurt. He shouldn't have played in the Four Nations, but he did. Now, I don't think he got hurt in the Four Nations. He didn't score a goal in the Four Nations. He played well. But really, he's been relegated to an assist man and to being a good checking center, and that's not worth 13.25. But that's what they're relegated to because he's playing hurt. Like I said, the guys who are not hurt, like Nylander and Marner, they didn't do much.
Mm-hmm. Would you rather see Austin Matthews? I don't think this is going to happen. Would you, if he's producing at this anemic level, at least when it comes to goal scoring, why not just sit the guy out? These guys can figure it out themselves. Try to stay in a decent playoff spot and bring them back for the playoffs.
Because now, I mean, he's played through this, and now you're past the deadline. If had you put him on LTIR at the deadline and made a trade for somebody who has a massive salary, that would be a reason. And then maybe who knows whether sitting out the last 5 weeks of the regular season, he'd be 100% healthy. I don't think he would. He sat out for 3 weeks and he wasn't 100% healthy. So I don't think that sitting out is going to make him any better. It's not going to get better until probably, and I have no inside information on this, I'm just making assumptions here. I think he's injured. I think he's probably going to have an off-season surgery.
Right.
He's tried to rehab it. He's tried to work through it. He's clearly not the player who scored 69 goals last year, unfortunately. And my assertion here is that they're not going to win a Stanley Cup with him less than 100%, but they have to try. And they went out and they got Carlo and they got Lawton, and they're pieces to the puzzle. And they hope that everybody else shows up and Matthews can step up. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be enough. And I think, right now, they need to win the Atlantic Division. By the way, if they do win the Atlantic Division,
how are they going to do that? We've been just shitting on them for the last 17 minutes.
I know. They have to turn it around. Otherwise they're going to finish in second or third, and probably play Tampa or Florida. And we know how it's going to go against Florida with Tkachuk and Marchand and Ekblad back in the lineup. Like I said, they need to win the division and have Florida and Tampa beat the crap out of each other. And then maybe they would have a chance against the winner of that series.
Wow.
Any way else. And by the way, James Duthie on the broadcast tonight said the thing that everybody didn't want to hear. He said, oh, well, knowing the Leafs, they will win the Atlantic Division and then play the wild card and lose to the wild card. And who would the wild card be? Right now, it's the Ottawa Senators. And they can't beat the Ottawa Senators. So anyway, they're screwed.
So they went toe-to-toe with the reigning champions, who are missing two integral guys from that run. And the big piece from their perspective, they traded for at the deadline, who's not going to be around until the playoffs. And they couldn't get it done. They weren't embarrassed. There was no reason to boo them off the ice. But when it counted, they just couldn't come through. Again, what makes anybody believe that this team's going to win the division the way it sits right now, the way that, the Panthers are playing, the way, the Lightning have come back into it, the way Ottawa's, trying to, nip at everybody's heels as the top wild card team. And considering it was 2-3 weeks ago when the Leafs were riding high, the way they are right now, what makes anybody believe they're going to snap out of it and take a run at the division title? Mike, last word to you.
Well, I as I said, Florida is without, 3 of their best players.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why. Tampa is a good team, but inconsistent. The Leafs have been inconsistent. It's who screws up the least in the last 17 or 18 games. The Leafs have 2 more head-to-head matchups against the Panthers. And they're going to need to win both of them probably to win the Atlantic Division.
With a guy who's known to have a more acidic point of view on this team as the seasons go by, you are leaving room for a dream scenario to come true here, Mike. So, we can shit on you for being a negative Nancy, and you get it. I get it. This podcast has gotten it over the seasons. But in your heart, you still believe, man. The fact you're even suggesting this team could figure it out after losing to a team that's shorthanded and that they have to climb over to not only win the division, but get anywhere in the playoffs tells me in your heart of hearts, there's still hope.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm saying that it's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think they're going to finish in second or third and lose in the first round. Show me. Show me. That's all I'm saying. If they're this good, show me. Win the Atlantic Division, have Florida and Tampa kick the crap out of each other, win the first round. Show me. Until you show me, I'm not going to believe anything.
It starts. Listen, Mike, it'll start with a win over a high-flying Senators team at Scotiabank Arena to start getting back on track here. And whether they do or whether this run of futility continues, we'll be around to talk about it on the next Leafs Convo. That is the Sunday Spectacular set for March 15th. Be there or be square. You'll know when we go by liking the content and subscribing to the channel. Mr. Augello, relax. There's still 17 games to go. It could only get worse, or maybe not. We shall see. Thank you very much for the sneak show tonight, Mr. A in Buffalo, New York. OG's Converse, thank you as well. And of course, a big thanks to our sponsor, Oak Ridge Ford, for helping keeping us alive. For Mike, I'm Norm, the Leafs Convo, and the sneak show. All right.